like you, hip, youthful individual, I, as a youth myself, not even 30 for like another whole week. I love to follow what's trending on Twitter. What's trending on Twitter right now? 500,000 likes. Well, Tucker Carlson, why I'm interviewing Vladimir Putin. That's right. Just a year ago, this guy was the most watched television political pundit, and now here he is going to have an interview with essentially a foreign adversary. We love our free speech here, don't we, folks? Good thing it's not Russia. I don't think, a journalist from the Kremlin could get a fawning interview of President Biden if they wanted. What's going on here?
We're in Moscow tonight. We're here to interview the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. We'll be doing that soon. There are risks to conducting an interview like this, obviously, so we've thought about it carefully over many months. Here's why we're doing it. First, because it's our job. We're in journalism. Our duty is to inform people.
Man, instantly I'm reminded how infuriatingly boring I find Tucker Carlson, that everything he says is framed through whingy rhetorical questions and disingenuous appeals to your like intuition, you know? Every single time. He can never just say anything. It's always like, why doesn't the media want you to hear what President Putin has to say about homosexuals, you know?
2 years into a war that's reshaping the entire world, most Americans...
I do want to hear what Biden has to say about homosexuals, by the way. I'm sure he'd say some really funny shit.
Are not informed. They have no real idea what's happening in this region, here in Russia or 600 miles away in Ukraine. But they should know. They're paying for much of it in ways they might not fully yet perceive. The war in Ukraine is a human disaster.
How do you respond to people saying it's hypocritical that people are calling Tucker a traitor when other journalists have interviewed him or whatever? First of all, I don't think other journalists have interviewed him. We'll talk about that. And second of all, I don't have an issue with, again, literally freedom of speech. You know, if you want to do some like Vox, like I'm interviewing African warlord tier shit, whatever, man. The problem is that Tucker Carlson is going to unhinge his jaw and suck Putin's dick. Tucker Carlson agrees with Putin on basically everything because they're both fascists. They both believe that like Western degeneracy through homosexuality and transgenderism is ruining, the world broadly. They both believe that, Ukraine is either degenerate and Western or full of Nazis, whatever is more convenient. They don't disagree on anything. It's possible that Tucker Carlson might offer some meager pushback on some issues, but they would probably only be, first of all, keep in mind, okay, interviewing Vladimir Putin isn't exactly safe, right? It's not a free society he's flown into. So any interview of Vladimir Putin is going to have to be at least somewhat adoring. And I can prove it because in this video, Tucker Carlson claims incorrectly that no other journalist has made an effort to hear Vladimir Putin's opinions because, we're so afraid of them. The mainstream media is terrified of them or whatever. And the Kremlin fact-checked him. As Russian state television propaganda salivated over Tucker Carlson's interview with Vladimir Putin, the first of Carlson's falsehoods about his visit to Moscow was punctured, fittingly enough, by Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, who presumably helped arrange the whole strange venture. Carlson, the conservative former Fox News host with a history of airing bogus news, is this an opinion piece? Nope, all facts. Claimed, falsely, that prominent U.S. newspapers and television outlets had refused to interview Putin since his invasion of Ukraine and were ignoring Russia's perspective. Carlson labeled Western media as corrupt, spoilers, and accused them of lies on Tuesday in a video confirming he was in Moscow for a Q&A with the president. Mr. Carlson is wrong, Peskov said during his daily briefing for reporters. We receive many requests for interviews with the president. Peskov conceded that the Kremlin routinely blocked media interview requests from large Western outlets because he said it gave Carlson the nod because his position is different from the major Anglo-Saxon media. Anglo-Saxon is a common blanket jab at the West, even when mostly Americans are involved. Carlson's assertion was astonishing given that two journalists who are U.S. citizens are now jailed in Russia. Even Gershkovich, of the Wall Street Journal, who was accused of espionage and seized by Federal Security Service agents last year during a reporting trip to Yekaterinburg, and Alsu Karmasheva of Radio Free Europe / Radio Liberty, who has dual U.S. and Russian citizenship and who was arrested in October while visiting Russia from Prague, where she had been living. Carlson was sacked by Fox News this past April. The Kremlin's decision to allow the interview demonstrated Putin's interest, Prague, in building bridges to the disruptive MAGA element of the Republican Party, and it seemed to reflect the Kremlin's hope that Donald Trump would return to the presidency and that Republicans would continue to block U.S. military aid to Ukraine. Peskov said the Kremlin prefers Carlson to major Western media, which Peskov accused of bias, adding there was, quote, no benefit to the Kremlin in giving interviews to established Western news outlets. These are all media outlets that take one-sided stance, he added. Of course, we have no desire to communicate with such media, and there is no benefit in giving them interviews. That's right. From the Kremlin itself, they've been blocking interviews with Western journalists. The only reason they're taking Tucker Carlson is because he's already on their side. That's it. Of all the journalists from America who have tried to interview Putin since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, they are admitting Tucker Carlson because they know Tucker Carlson is going to unhinge his jaw and suck that fascist cock. That's it. The Russian government desperately wants Donald Trump to win in 2024 because Donald Trump and his administration are broadly pro-Putin in the same way they were broadly pro-Bolsonaro and broadly, pro-Orban. Fascists like other fascists, at least until they run out of liberals to devour and start trying to go after each other. That's it. So while you're watching this video on Tucker Carlson being like the brave dissident journalist who's willing to go where no one else is, keep in mind that A, plenty of others were willing to, and B, they weren't allowed to because they weren't going to kiss enough ass.
It's left hundreds of thousands of people dead, an entire generation of young Ukrainians, and it's depopulated the largest country in Europe. But the long-term effects are even more profound. This war has utterly reshaped the global military.
Who left them dead? Well, no one knows who started the Russia-Ukraine war. I've watched a lot of Tucker Carlson. I'm fairly confident that NATO did it by not admitting Ukraine into NATO. Wait, no. Okay. McCain, a decade ago, did a speech where he said he supported protesters and something, Ukraine made Russian troops appear in the Donbass or something. Yeah.
And trade alliances.
I think it was wokeism.
And the sanctions that followed have as well. And in total, they have upended the world economy. The post-World War II economic order, the system that guaranteed prosperity in the West for more than 80 years, is coming apart very fast. And along with it, the dominance of the U.S. dollar.
This is fear-mongering. While there are absolutely global economic concerns, the U.S. dollar still reigns supreme. Wow, this is just Russian propaganda. Yes, this is Russian propaganda. This is the kind of stuff that you'd hear from the Kremlin. It is absolutely true that there are global economic troubles, but that's not the Western economic system. That's the global economic system. There's no such thing as a Western economic system. It's not the Cold War anymore. The West doesn't have its own separate global economy. There's one global economy. We live on one globe. Economic problems are felt world round. If you want any evidence of that, take a look at how the 2008 financial crash f***ed over the entire planet, despite it being specifically about subprime mortgage loan betting done in the United States. Wacky stuff, right? So, yeah, there are global economic problems, not Western economic problems. Additionally, the US dollar is still dominant, uncontested. There's nothing else that even comes close to replace. Is he going to do some pro-BRICS nonsense? Like BRICS is just about to overtake the West when it hasn't done shit?
These are not small changes. They are history-altering developments. They will define the lives of our grandchildren. Most of the world understands this perfectly well. They can see it. Ask anyone in Asia.
He loves talking like this too, like saying nothing. Nothing. He's saying nothing here. These aren't little changes. These are big changes. Everyone can see it. Your grandchildren will see it. Ask anyone who can see it. Look at a person and ask them, can you see it? They'll answer, They can see it. Like, so much of his rambling is formed this way. It's not just him being incoherent. His scripts were, after all, written by a neo-Nazi. Remember? His chief writer for like 5 years was outed as like posting Nazi shit in a forum. This is all written beforehand, even though I don't think it's the same guy doing the work now. He found another Nazi, probably. The reason he speaks this way is because it appeals to stupid people. That's it. That's not like some snooty Hillary Clinton basket of deplorables, like liberal nonsense. This kind of rhetorical ask and answer, this performative nonsense, makes people feel like they're smart and participating in the same way that Dora the Explorer callouts engages the minds of 4-year-olds. When Dora the Explorer says, "Where's Swiper?" and the kid points at the screen and goes, "There's Swiper," and then she goes, "There he is." That is what he's doing. It sounds like a joke, but that is genuinely the rhetorical tactic. These rhetorical appeals are meant to make the person watching feel involved. They're being talked to like a toddler.
The Middle East, what the future looks like. And yet the populations of the English-speaking countries seem mostly unaware. They think that as nothing has really changed.
Yeah, that's definitely descriptive of English-speaking countries. They think nothing. What? What does this even mean? Based on what?
And they think that because no one has told them the truth. Their media outlets are corrupt.
True.
They lie to their readers and viewers.
Yep, people do that sometimes. News broadcasters, even ones that have been fired from Fox News, you know?
And they do that mostly by omission. For example, since the day the war in Ukraine began, American media outlets have spoken to scores of people from Ukraine, and they've done scores of interviews with Ukrainian President Zelensky. We ourselves have put in a request for an interview with Zelensky, and we hope he accepts. But the interviews he's already done in the United States are not traditional interviews. They are fawning pep sessions specifically designed to amplify Zelensky's demand that the U.S. enter more deeply into a war in Eastern Europe and pay for it.
As opposed to what Tucker Carlson is about to do, you know, fawn over Vladimir Putin in an effort to dissuade local lawmakers from voting for any more aid to Ukraine.
That is not journalism. It is government.
Remember that time Tucker Carlson compared Zelensky to a rat? Yeah, he was like angrily spitting that too, talking about how he was a rat. I remember that. Yep, I do remember that.
Propaganda of the ugliest kind, the kind that kills people. At the same time, our politicians and media outlets have been doing this, promoting a foreign leader like he's a new consumer brand. Not a single Western journalist has bothered to interview the president of the other country involved in this conflict.
And as the Kremlin corrected him, this is a lie. Tucker Carlson wants to be seen as some kind of like radical dissident, but the Kremlin doesn't want to, I don't know why the Kremlin admitted it. Maybe because it's so easy to fact check. It's pretty funny though that the Kremlin immediate was just like, yeah, no, he's lying here. We've gotten tons of requests for interviews.
Vladimir Putin. Most Americans have no idea why Putin invaded Ukraine or what his goals are now. They've never
Yeah, it's because of wokeness or something.
heard his voice.
They've never heard his voice? Yeah, they're American voters. They're pretty dumb.
Wrong. Americans have a right to know all they can about a war they're implicated in. And we have the right to tell them about it because we are Americans too. Freedom of speech is our birthright. We were born with the right to say what we believe. That right cannot be taken away no matter who is in the White House.
Unless you move to Russia, as some Republicans have advocated we do.
But they're trying anyway. Almost 3 years ago, the Biden administration illegally spied on our text messages and then leaked the contents to their servants in the news media. They did this in order to stop a Putin interview that we were planning.
I don't know any of the details about this, but it's Tucker Carlson, so it's safe to assume that he's lying. I'm not going to investigate the specifics of he's already been fact-checked once by the Kremlin. There's no reason for me to go into it.
Last month, we're pretty certain they did exactly the same thing once again. But this time, we came to Moscow anyway. We are not.
What exactly could the Biden administration do to stop them from interviewing Putin? Exactly? What does the Biden administration have the power to do to prevent? He can fly to Russia. Is he implying the Biden administration like threatened Putin? Or did he get threatened? If he had evidence of him being threatened, he says they leaked his private messages to get him fired, I think. Is he blaming Biden for that? I don't know.
We're here because we love Vladimir Putin. We are here because we love the United States. We want it to remain prosperous and free. We paid for this trip ourselves. We took no money from any government or group. Nor are we charging people to see the interview. It is not behind a paywall. Anyone can watch the entire thing, shot live to tape and unedited, on our website, tuckercarlson.com.
Nice.
Elon Musk, to his great credit, has promised not to suppress or block this interview once we post it on his platform.
Awesome.
X, and we're grateful for that.
Really? He did that?
Western governments, by contrast, will certainly do their best to censor this video on other less principled platforms because that's what they do. They are afraid of information they can't control. But you have no reason to be afraid of it. We are not encouraging you to agree with what Putin may say in this interview, but we are urging you to watch it. You should know as much as you can. And then, like a free citizen and not a slave, you can decide for yourself.
Did you?
Thanks.
Nice. I tried to pause it before it replayed, but I was just a little bit too slow. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say, really. Is this a neo? Yeah, this is a neocon, according to Paul's ego. No, we shouldn't fuss. The EU wants to sanction Tucker. I mean, they sanctioned RT, right? So I guess, you know, it's kind of fitting. If they did, it wouldn't be that surprising. I don't have anything against interviewing foreign politicians, but the idea of like there is a literal land war going on in Europe, and the idea of like a journalist going over there to suck Putin's dick, I can see them being a little bit angry about that. Whoa! Why so loud? So will we watch it when it's out? Well, yeah, probably, right? Yeah, music jump scare. Jesus Christ. Remember when Foreign Minister Lavrov was publicly upset by Tucker Carlson getting fired?
Perhaps it would be useful to consider how things are with freedom of speech in the United States. I've heard that Tucker Carlson has left Fox News. It's curious news. What is this related to? One can only guess. But clearly, the wealth of views in the American information space has suffered as a result.
Is Carlson a Russian asset? Well, Carlson and Donald Trump's administration and a bunch of others are objectively Russian assets in the sense that they are advantageous to Russia, like their presence benefits Russia. They're assets as in they are tools that Russia has. But whether or not like Russia controls them, I don't really think so, to be honest. They get kickbacks and there are definitely connections like financial and social. But it's kind of like Orban. For the most part, I just think fascists want to advance fascism, you know? It is to the benefit of fascists globally that they push back against liberal democracy globally. That's it. It's mutually beneficial. Is that a useful idiot? No, Tucker Carlson knows what he's doing. Is Tucker going to ask Putin if he watches One Piece? Yo! Yeah, exactly.